Hello, I'm Philip Brunelle, Artistic Director and founder of VocalEssence and organist, choirmaster at Plymouth Congregational Church in Minneapolis. Each day I have selected a composer who has had a role to play with both organizations. And today it is Nathaniel Dett, a very wonderful and important African-American composer, born in 1882, died in 1943. He was Canadian-American by his parents. He was an organist, a pianist, and a choral conductor. He was a man who loved the folk songs and the spirituals of African-American background, and he used them in a lot of his music. He was the first black student to finish at Oberlin, which at that time was one of the few places that an African-American student could enroll. And for 20 years, he taught at Hampton Institute. He was also, of course, involved with the National Association of Negro Musicians. I first got to know about him through a piece, because those of you who know me know I'm always looking, who is this composer? Why don't I know about him? What did this composer write? What did she do? Etc. So all of these. And one of the things that I found out was that he had written this piece called Listen to the Lambs, which he composed in 1914. Later, in the 1940s and 50s, I found out that this piece was sort of a test, seen as a level of accomplishment for African-American choirs to see if they were at a level of doing art music by composers such as Dett. And Listen to the Lambs was sort of the piece that people used as a gauge for that. The text says, "Listen to the lambs all a-cryin'." It says it over and over, and then in the middle part, it's that text, "He shall feed his flock like a shepherd." Music of Nathaniel Dett. You know, when you study piano, one of the things that they never teach you is how do you turn pages while you're still going. And if you have a piece of music like this one, which I have had, I inherited it, it's from 1920, the pages are a little bit fragile. So we just do the best we can. Nathaniel Dett he had written a work in 1919 called The Chariot Jubilee. And it was a piece that I was interested in having us perform. But then I couldn't find it anywhere. I could find a piano vocal, but I couldn't find the orchestration. I couldn't find any parts for it. I searched every place that I knew Nathaniel Dett had lived. Nobody had it. It had disappeared. So then I thought, well, then what we have to do is we will ask an African-American composer if he would, in the style of Nathaniel Dett, rewrite and rethink this piece. And so the Chariot Jubilee, which becomes one of the first important works of choral music by an African-American that uses the spiritual swing low, sweet chariot. And it's a piece that is on one of our Witness CDs. It's a great piece. And what's wonderful is you don't really know that it's going to be Swing Low, Sweet Chariot until near the end. Little motifs of it come, but the whole piece does not come together until the end. As I mentioned, Nathaniel Dett was also interested in folk songs and spirituals, and he wrote a very famous set of pieces that he called a characteristic suite. And I'm going to play the last movement, the Juba, which is, I love my old copy of it here that I've had for many years, says here on the cover, hang on, as played by the world-renowned pianist Percy Grainger. My copy, which I found at an antiquarian shop, is dated 1925. So Juba, this dance, he wrote in his introductory words about it, get the music back up here, he says, "This is probably the most characteristic number of the suite. It portrays the social life of the people. Juba is the stamping on the ground with the foot and following with two staccato pats of the hands in 2/4 time. At least 1/3 of the dancers keep time in this way while the others dance. And the orchestra usually consists of a single fiddler perched high on a box or table, who, forgetful of self, in the rather hilarious excitement of the hour, does the impossible in the way of double stopping and bowing." He also says about this piece, "Don't become too boisterous in the dance. Remember always that program music is at its best when most in accord with those sentiments uttered by the great Beethoven in regard to his pastoral symphony, more an expression than a painting." Music of Nathaniel Dett, Juba. Have a wonderful day.